Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from our friend Seldon Gardain. Hope I said that right. Seldon says, "Hey Ramsey, question for you. Have you ever lost to a student? And if so, how do you not lose face with your other students? Some instructors give the vibe that they're the best of the best, while others are perfectly okay and open with knowing their limits. You seem to be the latter. What's your experience? Thanks." Have I ever lost to a student? The way you phrase that question has me a bit puzzled because I spar with my students constantly. And I make it a point to tap out as often as possible. What I mean by that is to train so much that I am tapping out on a regular basis. One of the best pieces of advice, at least for submission grappling, that I've ever heard came from Ricky Lundell. Ricky Lundell is amazing, youngest Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt of his generation. Holds world titles in a bunch of grappling contests and whatnot. Fantastic coach of UFC fighters. And he said, if you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, roll with everybody until the white belts can beat you. And he's a very high-level black belt, very high-level wrestler. One of the pioneers of fusing those two arts into something better and beautiful and wonderful. And this guy is telling you, this is what I do to get better at jiu-jitsu. I roll with everybody until the white belts can beat me. I do this thing at my gym from time to time, where we'll do MMA sparring or we'll do grappling or whatever. And I'll get a brand new pair of gloves or boxing gloves or MMA gloves or some other nice piece of gear. And I'll hold it out, then I'll say the first person who can tap me out gets these gloves for free. And everybody's eyes light up like, whoa, neat. And then they try to kill me. They try to rip my arms off. It's amazing. I love that type of motivation in my students. Because a lot of times the students, they roll with the coach, and the coach in a lot of gyms is generally the best guy on the mat. And part of the reason for that is because he spent the most time troubleshooting under a very specific circumstance of working with somebody not at his level so he can figure out all the details and how to do it exceptionally well. And then you guys, when they roll with the coach, or they spar with the coach, or they box with the coach, or whatever the sport is, they get nervous and they're like, oh, he's the coach, he's so good, I can't do anything. And they defeat themselves before they even get in there and spar, and they psych themselves out. But when there's some free gear on the line, some free gloves or something like that, it can be the smallest little thing. Suddenly, they turn into trained killers. And they get after it, and it's amazing, and I love that. So have I tapped out to my students? Yeah, absolutely. Have some of my students got the best of me in kickboxing or boxing? Yeah, absolutely. And I make sure this happens as often as possible. I will wear myself out to the point where I can barely keep my hands up. I will wear myself out to the point where I can't stand anymore. I'll do shark tanks with them until somebody beats me. I want them to see that we all have feet of clay, we are all mortals, that everybody is a human, everybody is beatable, that they have the capacity and the potential to beat anybody if they put in the right training, if they do it the right way. And that's a glorious experience, man. A lot of people, yeah, like you said, are really concerned about losing face. Like, oh man, if I can't lose to my students, I can't let them up, show me up or show that they have a skill that I don't have or whatever. And that's stupid, because if you do that, you don't progress. There are a lot of these coaches online, you see them, who have this awesome persona, like they're untouchable, like they're a god, if you will. And you never see them sparring, You never see them fighting because they won't publish that. Because that, even if they do it well, still makes them look like a human. Makes them look mortal, makes them look fallible. Because you can see the faults in it. They're scared that somebody who knows a little bit more might say, hey, the way you're throwing your jab is not optimal. If you change this and this, it'll be better. Or worse, some angry troll in the comment might say, you suck. They're afraid of that, man. They're afraid of failure. You have to embrace failure if you want to be any good at anything, especially fighting. Do you want to know the secret to becoming a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I'm going to tell you, and it's really, really simple. Tap out 1,000,000 times. Tap out 1,000,000 times. If you want to have that level of skill in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's what you do. Essentially, you lose in the gym 1,000,000 times. You lose in competition 1,000,000 times. You lose over and over, and every single time you learn how to fix it. So yeah, man. I post my sparring videos on YouTube all the time. I narrate them a lot. And not all of them, because, you know, I do train some fighters, and I do respect their privacy, and I don't want their opponents to do film studies on them close to fight time whenever possible. So there is that. But, you know, as far as me, for my own personal edification, yeah, I post that stuff online all the time. I love Marcelo Garcia. That guy's awesome for so many reasons. One thing that I love about him is that he posts everything he does online. He wants the world to know what he can do, and he's really good, but like any human, he makes mistakes sometimes. And a lot of people they ask him, hey, Marcelo, aren't you afraid people are going to do film studies on you? They're going to see your technique and see how you train and learn how to beat you. And his answer to that was brilliant. He said, I want them to see it. I want them to watch how I was yesterday. Because they won't be fighting me yesterday. They'll be fighting me today, who is a whole different person. Fight records are stupid, and a lot of people will say, hey, Ramsey, what's your fight record? Or they'll look me up on SureDog, which is an incomplete fight record, by the way. It's missing 10 fights. But it's annoying when people try to esteem your value based on a record of what you've done in the past, of what you've won and what you've lost in the past. Any intelligent, responsible human learns from their mistakes. Any intelligent animal of any species, what do? We learn from our mistakes. Animals, not just humans. We touch a flame, we learn very quickly, hey, don't do that anymore. That loss right there just taught me something. Why do we experience pain? Prolonged pain. Not just immediate pain. For example, man, I dislocated my shoulder a couple weeks ago, and it hurts still 2 weeks later. And it's going to hurt for a while. I mean, I got the message immediately as soon as I hit the ground in that awkward position. I got the message, yeah, don't do that again. And I'm not going to make that mistake again, but what's the wisdom? Whether you're a creationist or an evolutionary thinker, what is the evolutionary advantage of experiencing prolonged pain? What is God's wisdom in allowing you to experience prolonged pain from an incident? Why does evolution or God or whatever you want, why does your body want you to remember that over and over and over again, every moment of every day until it's healed, months later? What's the wisdom in that? Is that not how... Should it not be that way? No. I'm going to tell you something. We need that experience over and over and over again, and I'll tell you why, because animals, humans included, we're kind of stupid. We think we get the message the first time, but we don't. We need to lose again and again and again and again. We need to be reminded of the loss again and again and again and again. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge the fact that we are not that person anymore. In 7 or 8 years, what happens to a human being? What happens to any animal, really? Every single cell in the body, every molecule is replaced and regrown with a new one. I am not the same person on a physical, cellular, molecular level anymore as I was 7 or 8 years ago. Neither are you. You're technically not even the same person when you wake up the next day. But we remember the pain in the shoulder. We remember the memories in the mind or the heart or wherever consciousness is. We remember that so that today we're better than yesterday. It's a simple lesson life teaches us. It's a simple lesson that sparring in the gym teaches us. It's a simple lesson I want my students to know. I want my students to surpass me in every way. Imagine for a minute a martial arts instructor who teaches students to be worse than he is. What a waste. Don't train with that guy. Why would you want to train with a guy who cannot teach a fighter to be any better than he is? What a crappy training camp that would be. And man, think about it. Who are some great coaches out there? Greg Jackson, Faraz Zahabi. People know those guys. Are they the best fighters in the world? I mean, they know quite a bit about fighting. Faraz is very capable. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a former professional kickboxer. But is he the best fighter? Is he better than the guys he's coaching? Is he better than GSP? If they got in a fight, who would win? Probably GSP, right? I mean, that's their goal. Greg Jackson, would he stand a chance against John Jones? No, heck no. Would he stand a chance against most of the fighters in his camp in a fight? No. How does he handle that? I'll tell you why. Because his imperatives, just like mine, just like Faraz's imperatives, just like our goals, are not to be the best guy in the gym at winning gym fights. That's a very short-sighted goal. It's to train fighters to win fights. To train fighters to win fights. To train fighters to be better than us at the art of fighting. And that's it. Thanks for the question. Now get out there and train.